All right, good evening. We'll call the Finance and Personnel Committee to order. Today's date is Wednesday, August 3rd. The time is 6:17. And we'll proceed with roll call. Myself, Deanne Stevens, am present. Alder Tom Smith.
Present.
Stephen Knott.
Present.
Everybody's accounted for. Also joining us, we have the city attorney, the city finance director, Her Honor the Mayor, Jared Holter, the public works director, Alders Wolf, Alders Stokes, Alder Jurassic. We have Park Director Dan Wick, Chief Goody, Amy Franston, HR, and joining us we have Supervisor Ferries, Jean, and other people. Moving on to item 2, consideration on action on minutes from the previous meeting. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll second.
Motion by Alder Smith, second by Alder Knott. Is there any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes from the previous meeting, please signify by saying aye.
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 Minutes are approved. Next, we will go on to public input. Public input is limited to 3 minutes. Anybody wishing to speak here in chambers may do so by approaching the podium. Please state your name and address. Or if you're online, please make yourself known. Would anybody like to address the Finance and Personnel Committee? Second call. Third and final call to address the Finance and Personnel Committee. Hi, Larry. Hearing no public input is now closed. Moving into the next section, finance, consideration and possible action on the following items. Item 4, the presentation for the 2021 audited financials from Hawken Ash CPAs LP. Sabrina?
Yep, so I'd like to call our lead auditor up to talk to you about the financials and talk to you about the audit. So I'll welcome Justin Peterson. He's the manager who's on this audit. He will present.
Thank you. And your name again is Justin?
Justin Peterson. As Sabrina said, I'm an audit manager at Hawken Ash CPAs and the audit firm that's done the city's audit the last 10 to 15 years. You should have received 3 reports from Sabrina. The first one is the full audited financial statements. The second one would be the management letter or the independent auditor's report on communications with those charged with governance. And then the one that I'll be going over today is the summary financial statements. That'll be the smaller of the 3. Any of you guys have any questions, feel free to interrupt me at any time and I'll do my best to answer it as we are. And if I can't answer that tonight, I can get back to you guys.
Proceed as you will.
So for the summary financial statements, the first page is just a table of contents, kind of goes over everything that is shown in this report. The next page is an independent auditor's report. This report is saying that this summary is only used for presentation purposes only, and to look at the full audited financial statements, which have the full financial statement disclosures for anything other than tonight. It also states that the opinion that we had given on the overall audit and audited financial statements was an unmodified or clean opinion. Page 3. Page 3 is a combined balance sheet. This is a combination of your governmental funds, your business type funds, and the fiduciary funds. This is just kind of a wide variety showing everything, showing all the cash, receivables, everything that's showing up on the balance sheet. Later in the report, it breaks up more of this information, shows more detail. Page 4, the draft. This is kind of representative showing your fund balances. The pink column shows your general fund balance over the last 4 years. As you can see, it's slightly gone up each of the last 4 years. And then the green column is all the other funds summarized together. That has also gone up, but there's a more split up detail that what breaks up and makes up that other funds. The next page kind of goes over the general fund only revenue, and this compares between the 2020 numbers and against the budget. Couple items that kind of stood out this year were the increase in building permits and inspection fees, which was $200,000 over budget. And then there was also some sales, an unbudgeted item. Overall, the actual numbers were above budget by $400,000 and $300,000 more than last year. The next page is a chart kind of showing what makes up your general fund revenue. As expected, a large portion of that is taxes and special assessments. Next, intergovernmental, and then from there on, license and permits. This is a pretty standard breakdown of municipality this size and pretty comparable to where it's been the past couple of years. Page 5 shows the general fund expenditures, again, compared to 2020 and compared to the budget. Down at the bottom, something that kind of steps out is the $415,000 transfer, which is a transfer to the equipment replacement fund done at the end of the year. Kind of the surplus budget that the general fund has is moved at the end of the year. Otherwise, it's pretty comparable from year to year. There wasn't really anything that stood out too much. And then another thing to note that the general fund budget was, or the general fund actual expenditures was below budget. And then again, this is the next page is a graph showing the general fund expenditures, where it's made up of. Public safety is the biggest expenditure made up from there, and then general government, public works, culture and rec. Page 6 goes into the water, sewer, stormwater, kind of the major enterprise funds at the city. If you go to the next page, or kind of go side by side, this will show what these funds have done with their operating income or loss over the last 4 years. As you can see, the water has increased significantly in 2021. And then the sewer also increased, which was expected with some of the rate case increases that have happened. Stormwater did have a decrease this year, but partially because of a $273,000 expense that was for a project with Valley View. And since the city of La Crosse owns that, it wasn't capitalized, so it was just shown all this year as an expense. Whereas typically something like that would have been depreciated over the 40 years. It's all shown this year. And then page 7, this is where it breaks up the fund balances for all of the other miscellaneous funds that the municipality has. Something to note here, there are the new 2021 capital project fund. That's the large increase in capital or in fund balance at year end. And that's the $735,000. That's the remaining portion of the capital projects. Another increase was the equipment replacement fund, which is due to the transfer done from the general fund at year end. The last page kind of summarizes some major footnote disclosures from the overall financial statements. The first thing, as I kind of started with, is the independent auditor's report. The audit report summarizes basically this unmodified clean auditor opinion. And then in our opinion, the statements present, or the financial statements present fairly in all material respects. There are no findings, no issues noted. And then as this goes on, it kind of goes and shows some of the major general capital fixed asset additions and what was made up from them. A big portion of the infrastructure were the Greens Cooley project, the Green Cooley design. There were 2 new police vehicles purchased, 4 shared ride vehicles. And then the building improvements, a big portion of that was made up from the fiber optic upgrade. And then water and sewers and stormwater utilities increases. A big portion of that, like I said, was the Greens Cooley. And then there was also $580,000 contributed from developers, which was for the Crestwood Estates project. Lastly, there's a breakup of what makes up the long-term debt. Kind of shows the general obligation, long-term debt, where it was starting the year, current year additions, current year retirements. And as you can see, in total, the general obligation debt increased 153,000 with the new 2021 bonds that were given out, and then what was current debt payments. General obligation long-term debt as of 12/31/2021 was 43,863,213,000, which is well below the city's debt limit of $120 million. Lastly, auditors report on compliance and internal control over financing or over financial reporting. Our reports conclude that the city's internal control appear adequate for a city of your size, and we did not identify any material compliance violations. And then the communications with those in charge of governance. This report would describe the scope of our audit, limitations from a financial audit, and any communications of any problems we had during the process. And then, as I said earlier, there were no problems that were identified.
So maybe to back up a little bit, and this might be more of a Jared question, but so the losses that we've had from 18 through 20, actually 21 for sewer and stormwater, was that due to the Green Cooley Reservoir, or is that operational costs?
So the sewer costs, we did go in 2018 and 19 and adjust our sewer rates. So our rate that we charge, we increased it in 2018 and 2019 by 50 cents per 100 cubic feet. So we knew that time that we needed to adjust our rates to start and you can see we've started to trend up where 2020, we were a little bit below 2021. We're basically dead flat even. That will be a discussion also for next month in the September utility meeting for what our rates will be going in 2022. And between the Public Works and the Finance Department, we'll work together to get a new rate for this upcoming year. We're trending in the right direction, I feel, and I feel we've really mitigated some of those things in the sewer department that we had going on. Obviously, Public Service Commission, those rates are controlled, or water rates are controlled by the Public Service Commission. So those, you can see that we have a large increase in fund balance, but that is a rate of return over time. So that's going to keep depleting over time. And we only go in for a major rate increase every 5 to 10 years. So hopefully that will mitigate over time, where we'll use that money over time. The storm sewer, as our auditor pointed out, we had the La Crosse project that was at Valley View Mall for almost 300,000 that we couldn't book as a depreciable asset. So we had to book it as a one-time occurrence for the utility, which really kind of hurt our standing in 2020, made it kind of look worse than I think it was. The stormwater utility really over the years we implemented in 2011 has kind of been a pay each year as you go. So we really don't build a lot, but we have looked even at this year as part of the utility ERU rate that will be presented in September. We are looking at some things. We are having to raise the rate because we do have some things going on in the stormwater utility that will hopefully get us back to where we're net neutral.
I mean, so looking at the graph, it looks like we're consistently maybe not charging enough for stormwater, and it looks like we're charging more for water, but that's Public Service Commission, then
Correct.
that's really out of our hands.
Part of that is, and
is stormwater also.
No, stormwater is a city sets the rate for the ERU, which is our methodology, billing methodology. Part of it would be either Sabrina or our auditor could explain. Depreciation is in those numbers. So our cash balance is probably actually going up each year, but our depreciation is showing us as a net negative. If you could, that's engineering knowledge. We're getting
That makes
beyond the
sense.
auditing.
question, Dan.
First to Sabrina or your Tom. Let's go to Tom first.
That one-time charge that we had to eat on that, is that like a one-time or do you think that'll happen again?
No, so we have an agreement with the city of La Crosse for the storm sewer. It runs from Highway 16 to La Crosse River, goes actually underneath Valley View Mall.
Okay.
And that line is owned by the city of La Crosse, but we have an agreement that we pay 52% of the cost of it because we put 52% of the flow into the pipe, but they own it. So they needed some maintenance done to it. That pipe was installed in the 70s and there was corrosion within the pipe. So this will hopefully be a one-time cost. I would say probably every 10 years, we'll probably have a cost of some maintenance on that pipe, but yeah, it'll be a one-time, more of a one-time, I consider a one-time cost.
And a follow-up to that question, I know last year we talked about the water rates went way up and we had a lot of noise from that. Offset with the sewer rates because they're using more water, the sewer thing, and there was a concern about, the rates going way up and then the sewer going way up too, because they were coming from both ends on that hot summer. We had lots of water there. Is that part of what we'll be talking about moving forward to with the rates?
So when we discuss rates at the September utility meeting, we'll discuss our water utility budget and go through that. We will not be discussing water rates because those are controlled by the Public Service Commission. And as part of the mortgage revenue bond that we did approximately 3 years ago, we were required to go in and do a water rate evaluation, at which time the rates were adjusted to cover those costs and all the costs that we showed as a water utility. And as part of that, that's the reason that you see, because that is done with a rate of return that then they want it to last for a set amount of, or
Then, yeah.
a proposed amount of time based upon their actuarial prediction of costs over time. So what do you typically see? 5 to 7 years usually for a major rate increase for most, probably?
Yeah, I would say probably at least 5.
Yeah.
I know some in the conference that I was in 2 weeks ago said it had been 15 years. That seems awfully long. But
Yeah, and-
usually 5 to 7, I think is.
And we had actually, in the early 2000s, we hadn't done a water rate adjustment and we went too long. And if at that time when we had the auditor in for at those times, we were showing negative balances. So we were eating into our fund balance and we needed to really go in and do that. And sometimes too, what we would propose along this time too, is you can do a simplified rate case, which is a lot less work, a lot simpler by the name, but you can actually then keep that revenue stream coming in where it needs to be. So you can maybe make it a longer term before you need to do the major rate increase. The major rate increase is a lot of work, work by our auditor, a lot of work by staff, just whether it's answering questions from the Public Service Commission. It's a long process.
Yeah, thank you.
And Sabrina.
I was just going to add that the depreciation in the stormwater fund was $583,519. So if you take that out, we actually would have had a change in net position of a positive number, but the depreciation is kind of what put us over as well, so.
No. Yeah.
And then maybe this is a Sabrina question. So the excess that we have from the water revenue, I mean, that's a pretty sizable number. That's segregated from general funds that stays within the utility.
Correct, that stays with the water fund.
And over time, we think that, from what I'm hearing, the expected revenue balances will go down up until the next rate increase. What happens to those funds over time? Is that like, do we use that on a major project in the future yet to be determined, or are we just accruing cash?
It definitely could be used on a project. It sits in our fund balance, so it could be used in a budget scenario where you decide instead of using borrowing that you would use fund balance to pay for a project. So we have reserves set up for that.
But the funds have to stay within water or sewer or something like that.
Yeah. The water would stay in water, sewer would stay with sewer.
Stephen, I can't see you. Are you good with anything? If you need to say anything, just speak up.
Oh, you can bet I would. No, I'm good, thanks.
All right. Do we have any other questions for the gentleman from Hawkins Ash? Well, thank you very much for your service.
For coming.
Thank you.
Say hi to Bob for me and give him a hard time. All right, on to item 5, the 2022 general fund financials. This is Sabrina.
Can you accept and place on file?
Oh, I guess.
I guess.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we accept the 2021 audited financials from Hawkins Ashton, CPA LLP as presented
Second.
tonight.
Second.
Motion by Alder Smith, second by Alder Knott to accept the financials from the presentation. Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the financials, please say aye.
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 Financials are accepted. Now on to item 5 for the 2022 general fund financials. This will go to Sabrina.
All right, thank you. So in your packets tonight, you do have the general fund financial statements, which we'll start with if you want to go to page 4. This is our budget report year to date. Couple things I'd like to note. Our shared revenue from the state, some of those funds have come in since I've prepared this. So some of those funds have come in already. Same with the state aid road allotment. Those are all payments that come from the state and they all came right at the end of July. I had to get this prepared sooner than that. So some of those have come in. The other things I'd like to note in regards to building permits, we are over budget there by 28,229. So doing really good for revenues with building permits again this year. In total, if you go to page 6 for revenues, we do only have 16.69% left to meet our total revenue budget for 2022. So we're sitting well. Lastly, for the general fund, if you want to go to page,
Sorry, Sabrina. So are we anticipating being that we're just over the halfway point with 17% to hit revenue? We should far exceed that unless something crazy happens.
correct, yep. If you go to page 18 of your packets, this will give you our expense total. We do have 47.33% remaining for total expenses for our budget.
All right, Tom. Do we want to accept these?
I'll make a motion that we accept the 2022 general financials and place them on file.
Second.
Motion by Smith, seconded by Knott to accept the 2022 general fund financials. Any discussion? All those in
Yeah, I
favor?
just have one. I have one.
Go ahead, Stephen.
Sorry. There's always a delay on the telephone. So yeah, with the 47.33%, just want to point out that that will probably end up going a little higher than that as we continue along, because as we're seeing a lot of any additional obligations we have to make throughout this remaining fiscal year, they're coming in over budget most of the time because of the inflation. So I do expect that will probably adjust. Am I correct or incorrect on that?
You're correct, Stephen. I expect that as well.
But for this time of year, this is about where we would expect to be, right?
Yeah.
So. All right, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the financials, please say aye.
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 Moving on to item 6, we will now discuss the 2022 Omni Center financials. Again to Sabrina.
Thank you. In your packet on page 23 is the budget report for the Omni Center. Couple things to note, in my absence, we haven't done, we do a transfer for room tax. That hasn't been done yet. I will be doing that soon for the first and second quarter. As you can see, even without the transfer of room tax, we are already 40%, we only have 40% remaining for our budgeted revenues for the Omni Center without those additional room tax journal entries that have completed.
Do you have
have
an
to just
idea what the
meet with them.
transfer to room tax would be, or to tourism?
I don't, those numbers would have been finalized while I was out for the first quarter, and the second quarter, we don't know yet. We should have that soon, though. So I will come in September with updated information regarding that. And then in regards to expenses, which is on page 25, we do have 39.56% remaining for expenses.
So again, it looks like we're pretty close to where we would anticipate to be.
Correct.
Good thing.
I don't have any questions, but I'll make a motion that we take, accept the 2022 Omni Center financials and place them on file.
I'll second.
Motion by Smith, seconded by Knott to approve and place on file the 2022 Omni Center financials. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Omni Center financials are approved. On to item 7, the Gunderson Health Systems parking ramp financials for 2022 second quarter. Sabrina.
Thank you. So in your packets on page 28 is the 2022 parking ramp operating costs. You can see first quarter and second quarter for 2022 and 2021. As you can see for the parking ramp, they're even seeing an increase in electricity and gas costs, just like we are here at City Hall. But in general, the total expenses are up slightly in the second quarter than the second quarter for 2022. All I really have on those. If you have any questions, let me know.
So do we get to set the rates for parking, or is that, because there's a cooperation with Gunderson, I think, right?
I don't know the answer to that.
It just seems like if we're on the hook for the expenses and
No, the city of Onalaska, this was set up like a long time ago and formatted differently, but currently the city of Onalaska just pays $1,250 per quarter. And the Gunderson, I think Stony Creek pays something too, but Gunderson pays the entire cost of it. When these expenses go up, it doesn't affect ours. And this does have a sunset. It was like a 20-year plan, and I think there might be like 4 or 5 years left of it. It is approaching.
I believe it's 2028.
thank you.
So our cost is set. The city of Onalaska's cost is set.
When that ends, what happens? Back to them.
Yes, then Gunderson will own it and we will be done.
We're out of it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the insight, Mayor.
I will make a motion that we approve the Gunderson Health System parking ramp financials for 2022 second quarter and place them on file.
Second.
Motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott, regarding approving and placing on file the Gunderson Health Systems ramp financials for the second quarter 2022. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 These financials are approved. On to item 8. Now let's talk about the request for funding from the La Crosse County for the 2023 budget. I believe we have a guest here that will speak on this, but is this, Sabrina, do you want to introduce the?
I think Dan, Parks Director, would like to speak first. Dan.
All right, how about that, Mr. Wick? Come on down.
Thank you. So tonight you have before you a list of projects that we have put together. We were extremely fortunate enough in 2022 here to get some funding from La Crosse County to help us kick off our rebrand of the Omni Center. So what we have put together is a 5-year list of projects looking for some additional support from La Crosse County in areas where we thrive with tourism dollars coming into the Omni Center, to look for their support to help us. So in 2023, we have allocated looking for support for our concession stand renovations. This would help us with walk-in cooler upgrades, to ice machines, to the county has requested some changes to it through health code that we would like to see done with the funds, if we could request that and be so fortunate to get it from La Crosse County.
And would this be a series of asks to the county, or is this like one ask where it's allotted over 5 different years?
This would be a 1-year request. We have laid things out, but it would be a single year request.
All right.
Dan?
Old or not, or yeah, old or not.
Yes.
I don't know if you're talking to me or Dan, but
Oh, yes. So Dan, I have a question for you. I'm looking at the 5-year plan you have here. You answered one question right off the bat when you mentioned health code for the 2023 ask. But I'm curious that the very last in the priority here you have seems to be like it's addressing security and safety. So could you just kind of tell me why that racked and stacked last? And again, 2023, I get it. You mentioned health code. That's all I needed to hear.
Right. We as a staff looked at a number of different projects as we go, and we tried to prioritize them in what we feel is the need. And that is, the reason I guess we placed that where we did.
At least in a
Well, what
priority.
is the security and safety concern that the 2027 ask is going to be addressing? I guess I'm still curious why that would come last. We would have some time to talk this too. I have no problem with the 2023 as soon as I heard health code, but
Right.
so I guess I'm specifically to 24, 25, 26.
So looking at, back to item 27, which is a lighting and accessibility, what we're looking at there is to try to tie the buildings together. Right now, with the original building built in 1992, the addition put on in 2011, 2012, our electrical systems don't tie together. Some of our digital screens in the back aren't functioning properly. So we are, having to manually do everything in the back of the arena. So that's what we're looking at lighting and accessibility goes back to our accessibility plan that we did. We have been getting some funding to make some upgrades in our parks, to City Hall, to the library, and things we have. So we have been getting a little bit of funding to do little pieces of that through it. So that's what we had listed for 2027.
Okay, thank you.
how much is the ask to the county?
I believe we're at 100,000.
That will cover all 5 years?
That's the request that we have kind of put together, and working with trying to get these numbers put together. Yes.
Do we need to approve the request?
I'll make a motion that we approve the list of Omni Center project list for Cross County as noted in attachment number 8.
I guess I'm confused because according to the agenda, all he's doing is addressing the 2023 request. I think I'm interpreting the other 4 years as kind of an information only type of a deal, unless I'm misinterpreting that.
I believe that we asked him, that was answered, that it was a one-time ask that will be spread out. So it's a budget coming into this year, but it will be spent over the next 5 years. And how the money
Okay,
comes to us is that may be up to the county.
I see. I misinterpreted that. When I hear one-time asked, I was thinking it was for 2023. So it is for all 5.
No, just hold on 1 second, Stephen.
Go ahead, Stephen. This is a one-time request for 2023 only. We have laid it out.
That's what I was thought.
So it is, the concessions thing is just for 2023, the items that we have listed there.
Okay, then I'll withdraw my motion and state a new motion of that we approve the Omni Center project list for 2023 concession stand pro shop renovation maintenance.
I'll second that, motion for that request.
Okay,
Thanks,
so,
Steve. That's, yeah.
so we have a motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Knott. So for discussion, I guess I'll start, I'd like some clarification. So if this was a one-time ask for 5 years, or are we going to ask next year for the 2024? There'll be, okay, so we're looking at a series of 5 asks over 5 years. Okay, that's clear. So thanks for bringing that up, Stephen. I think I was not cogent on that. So, and then we have with us Supervisor Ferries. I don't know if you'd care to represent Unalaska from the county's point of view, but you're welcome in chambers.
Thank you. Dan Ferries, 402 9th Avenue North, Unalaska. I represent District 16 for La Crosse County, which is kind of the heart of Unalaska. Main Street, Redwood, and highway to highway. So that's kind of gives you demographics of District 16. You know, I'm a little bit confused on the scheduling of the 5 years. I remember Mr. O'Malley and I, the administrator from La Crosse County that's retiring now. Last year, there was a little bit of confusion when it went to him. But he said, well, you know, we don't normally approve multi-year requests. We have, and that's going back to the UW Stadium, which was a long payback period, but there's been a sunset on that. And very few multi-years. So I would encourage it to be like a 1-year ask. The city can have their laid out plan. Because otherwise I'm not sure how if you would take 20% of that, of $100,000 and spread that over 5 years and get that, you know, 20% a year, or if you just want to ask for the 100,000 up front, and this is our plan. So, you know, be cautious with your wording because they don't normally get into a multi-year funding. They did approve Supervisor Gary from the north side brought a resolution forward asking for $250,000. I believe it came out of the sales tax to go to, it did come out of sales tax to go towards the La Crosse Center because of the, was it $40 million project, whatever the renovation was of the La Crosse Center. With the increase of revenue that's going to bring in, the 0.5%, they thought it was justified to try to get ahead of the maintenance because sometimes cities, counties kind of is reluctant on keeping up with the maintenance. They kick the can down the road. So they did approve $250,000 for the La Crosse Center 6 months ago or so. And I think that may be coming down at us again, but every year we would vote on that, even though it is in the budget, it resurfaces every year to get looked at, as did the UW Stadium. But so like I said, I just wanted to caution you a little bit about a 5-year or a 1-year request for, and you said $100,000, and I didn't see the layout of what the plan was, but that's just all that I wanted to add. And I'd say to expedite this as quickly as possible. And I don't know if Mayor Kim has had conversations with people down there about where the budget process is. We're not there yet, but they like to compile it as soon as possible. And the sooner the better, I feel. So, but if you have any questions, I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Ferries. And just to reiterate, my understanding through deliberation is this really is just a 1-year ask of $100,000 for 2023. And the items provided on in the packet 2024 through 2027 is kind of our future wish list, but they're not really relevant to what this motion is. right? So,
That's what I agree.
so we're all on one page. All right, any other discussion? All right, let's vote on this. All those in favor of Alder Smith's motion to request funding from La Crosse County for the 2023 budget, please signify by saying aye.
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 Right, we will make such a request. Moving on to item 9, the 2022 auditor request for proposal RFP results. Was this Sabrina? Okay.
Yes, thank you. So we did go out for bid while I was on maternity leave. And we did receive 2 bids back, one from Hawkins Ash CPAs, which is our current auditor, and then from Bauman and Associates, which is out of Eau Claire. I did have a team of myself, Public Works Director Jared Holter, and City Attorney Amanda Jackson, all review both bids. You can see the scoring on page 30. Just a couple main points to compare the two. There was a $90 price difference between the two, with Bauman and Associates coming in $90 cheaper than Hawkins Ash CPAs. A couple of the other highlights, Hawkins Ash CPAs, if we have questions throughout the year and we call them, they don't charge us unless they have to do like a lot of work for the question. If they have to do a lot of research, then they'll discuss charging a fee. Bauman and Associates, they would charge extra fees. They also charge extra fees if a new GASB is put into place, which is a government accounting standard. That's from the Government Accounting Standards Board. If there's a new, for example, for 2022, the year end 2022, there's a new guideline out there where you have to recognize leases in a different way. They stated in their proposal that they would charge extra for that, where Hawkins Ash does not do that. So those were a couple of the main points, as well as Hawkins Ash CPAs has a lot more experience in regards to years of experience working on municipal clients. So that's what pushed me over the limit to give them the higher score. And Jared and Amanda are both here. They could add anything else if you're interested, but it is staff recommendation that we continue with Hawkins Ash CPAs.
Sabrina, is this item on the agenda advisory, or are we looking to make a decision?
We would need to make a decision.
I'm very comfortable with Hawkins Ash, and there's value in the continuity. Price difference sounds like it's negligible, and then we avoid nuisance fees. So I'll just make the motion that we stick with Hawkins Ash for the auditor for the city of Onalaska.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, this is Alder Knott.
Yes, Stephen.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so actually the way I'm interpreting this is not only is Hawkins Ash scoring higher, but in the long term, they should be actually cheaper based upon the routine questions not being charged versus their competitor. So I actually believe this is even the cheaper option as well as the best one. So no problem.
Sabrina shook her head yes in agreement. All right, any other discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Right, moving on to item 10, the discussion on the 2023 budget presentation. You get this one too?
I do.
Busy
Thank
tonight.
you. I am busy tonight. Just wanted to give an update since I am back from leave. The budget timeline for 2023 budget. This week I'm receiving all of the budgets from the different departments. So this week and next week and probably the week after, I'll be working through reviewing all of those budgets and putting them into our Tyler software. And then working on summaries and probably meeting with the department heads as a group, kind of talking like where we are. So then I come to the council with a balanced budget. We do have lots of constraints. The net new construction percentage is only 1.16%. And what that means is we can only increase our operating levy by 1.16%. So there are some constraints with that, but we do have in our favor that the expenditure restraint program for our expenditures, the CPI is likely going to be 7 or 8%. So while we won't be able to increase our levy very much, if we have additional revenues, we can increase our expenses. There's just a lot of constraints going into 2023.
Do we know how much the expenditure restraint amount would be?
We don't yet. They go through the month of August, so we'll find out in September. They'll use the CPI as of the end of August.
Trend is that's been getting smaller and smaller each year. Is that, I mean, is it going to be relevant?
What do you mean? Well,
Maybe we're not talking the same thing. The funds you get for the restraining your,
by meeting the restraint, yes. So by meeting the restraint, those numbers have gone down for dollars that we receive. In 2021, we received like 63,000, and it used to be much higher than that.
so what you're saying is that we could spend more with that 7% increase to still meet that restraint.
Correct. The only other thing I wanted to note in regards to the schedule related to budget, we will bring the budget on Tuesday, October 11th to the Common Council, set the public hearing for November 7th. And then November 7th will be our public hearing for the budget. And you'll get your books like you have in the past. And if possible, over the next month or two, if you could bring in your budget books with the tabs, we'll be able to put the budget back in there and get that prepared for you.
I know that when last year we tried it kind of the dual method, and it's really cumbersome to go back and forth between every department. So having the full budget books would be appreciated.
By having that, she meant that we were going to do the hybrid model again this year. So it's very tedious for staff to put together the 750-page budget books. And with having an open position in finance right now, it was the plan that you would have the same budget book that you did last year. And then you would have those supporting documents available in a PDF.
All right, well, we'll talk about that, I guess. Okay.
Those documents really are like working papers. They're not really for the public. They're more of like documents that come to me to prepare the budget. That's why we don't want to put it all together in a PDF, because really that's not for the public, it's for internal use. That was.
No. Are we good on item 10? Yes, Your Honor.
Sabrina, can you just restate? So on October 11th, you're going to present the budget to the council. And so then we're going to start looking at it. And then the following month is when the public hearing is going to be? Is that how it's going to go?
Correct. So in October, we'll set time to review it for the FMP2 special meeting. So we'll set that in.
Thank you.
All right, I think we can close out finance then and go to personnel. Amy Franston, come on down.
Good evening. As you can see from the report in your packet, very easy report this month for the month of July. We did not have any regular positions filled. We did, however, have 6 part-time firefighters filled. And so that was a very good move for the department to enhance their part-time staffing. We are currently accepting applications until tomorrow for our vacancy in the finance department. We hope to conduct interviews over the 2 following weeks after that.
continue to have a very short list, and that's so nice. All right. Moving on, we will go into closed session. So we will consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19 dash 85 parent 1 parent E for the purpose of deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, specifically the Town of Onalaska Fire Contract. Also to consider a motion to convene in closed session under section 19.85 parent 1 parent C of the Wisconsin statutes for the purpose of considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The items are the interim city administrator and the public works superintendent, Brandon Heileman. If any action is required in open session as a result of closed session, the committee will reconvene in open session to take the necessary action and or continue with the printed agenda.
I'll make a motion. We go into closed session.
Second.
Motion by Alder Smith, seconded by Alder Not to go into closed session. Is there any discussion? Just for discussion, I'm fine if the other alders that are present remain here and can come up to the dais. But aside from that, all those in favor going into closed session, roll call, Stevens, aye.
Tom is aye.
And Alder Not is aye.
We are now in closed session at 7:12 PM.